Hello, I'm Peter Campos with the Gallup McKinley County Chamber of Commerce, and today I'm here with mayoral candidate Lyndon Tsosie to ask him a few questions that were submitted by our chamber members. The Gallup McKinley County Chamber of Commerce is committed to fostering strong, informed, and collaborative local leadership. As part of that mission, the chamber has invited all mayoral candidates to share their vision of Gallup's future, their approach to leadership, and their plans to strengthen our community and economy. These questions are designed to help business owners, residents, and community stakeholders better understand each candidate's priorities, values, and decision-making philosophy. We appreciate your thoughtful, candid responses as we work together to build a vibrant and prosperous Gallup. So the first section is fiscal stewardship. The City of Gallup manages a multi-million-dollar budget that directly impacts local services, infrastructure, and community growth. What experience do you have working with budgets of this scale?
Well, I guess we have to really figure out the actual scale of what the actual budget is. You know, you hear, whether you pop it up on Google, it could be 30 million, it could be 49 million. And really, I don't know the exact amount, but you know, being in business for 35 years and being an S corporation and a nonprofit the last 20, almost 30 years as a business, you know, I've come to know that with my personal finance, you know, of course it's always up and down, just like anything, because I have a retail shop. I have a team. I have a team that advises me. I have a team that takes care of my taxes and everything else. So I'm no professional, but I do understand having a positive, workable team that can actually help you is what will get things done. As mayor, one important thing I know is I won't dictate to say I know everything, because I don't. My administration, I want task force to help us understand where the budget goes, how much goes into each section, and how we can streamline that. But the most important thing goes back to the Gallup government website. Without that, we don't know anything. You know, we have no idea what is going on, because right now we're seeing 2016 numbers. 2016, this is 2025. So
okay.
I just, you know, have to know the exact amount and what kind of team will help within the city government to manage that in a proper fiscal positive way. We just can't start with not knowing those things.
Okay, fair enough. What is your position on the current gross receipts tax increments?
Well, with food taxes, you know, yes, I don't want to raise or say that we need to raise gross receipts taxes, you know, in order to help our infrastructure. There are plenty of grants out there, also with the state and the federal government. You know, the federal government is not going to last like this forever. If we look back at history, there's been things like this with how both parties work with one another, and how many times the U.S. government has shut down and how many times it has opened. There's always a negative and a positive with that. So there's a lot of grants, and again, it's backed with Lyndon Tsosie being mayor. It's a lot of task forcing to get the community involved, to get businesses involved, to change the structure. I mean, we literally have to change the ordinance with the zoning and planning, with the waste management and everything else, so that we can actually start from the bottom to bring Gallup up. Because Gallup is a major tourist attraction. It really is. We are, again, I remember we used to be in the top 10 or top 5 percentile in bringing gross receipts money in. And we're no longer doing that, because we, it seems like we gave up. When you look at our city, it's in dire need.
Okay. The next section is advocacy and legislative partnerships. So strong relationships with state and federal legislators are critical to securing capital outlay and project funding. How do you plan to build and maintain effective partnerships with lawmakers to advocate for Gallup's infrastructure, public safety, and economic development needs?
That's a great question, because what I would like to do is go to Santa Fe and lobby on behalf of our town. There's so much infrastructure that we need, but we also need to sit down with state legislators to understand what our needs are with being a major tourist attraction in the state and the Southwest and the United States, because Gallup is, again, one of the most beautiful places if we find the infrastructure money to get it going, to make sure that we make Gallup beautiful. Without that, it's really hard to gauge in fixing things in a positive way. So we need to work with the legislation, not just state legislation. We need to work with the federal legislators as well, whether they're Democrat or Republican. We need to help them understand our situation here in Gallup, because Gallup is so unique. In the United States, Gallup is one of 6 border towns, and it also brings hundreds of millions of dollars through federal grants that have made Gallup what it is. And we need to go to Washington on behalf of Gallup and the citizens, whether it's through Indian Health Service or finding federal grants for our schools and our city and our community, because those are the most important things that will bring Gallup to back to the top 5 of what we need to do to make Gallup beautiful, to make Gallup bring money in for everyone, not just for certain things.
Okay. The third section is community priorities and vision. From your perspective, what are the top 3 priorities for Gallup's future?
Personally, it is the infrastructure, as I have stated throughout this campaign. Without that, I tell everybody, go to the north side, go to the east side, to the west side, to the south side here, and look at the sidewalks. Look at the water lines where they were redone, and look at the roads. It should not be patchwork. It should be done correctly, because whoever was doing it had $10 to $15 million in contracts to beautify these roads. We go on Najoni, for example. That road is brand new, but it is really, really bad. It's like a dirt road, and you just can't have that kind of whether it's the engineer, whether it's the road engineers who redid it, structure it like that. It's bad. Our whole system is bad, and we need infrastructure to bring that up. And again, in order to have economic growth, not prosperity yet, but growth, we have to start at the bottom to restructure our whole system, and that means changing the ordinances, getting the right people in waste management, in the planning, zoning management, in all the management to sit down and actually look at everything and where the numbers are and what kind of grants and who is our grant writer, or if we have any. If we don't, we have to bring them in. We need a task force for every department. That's the most important thing, and that's how we should run a government, is with the citizens of Gallup.
Okay. How will you work collaboratively with citizens, business leaders, and community organizations to address these priorities and move Gallup forward?
And that's a really good question, because again, we had to advocate for task force. We have to, as mayor, what I want to do is I want to make sure that we pass an ordinance, and I know they used to do this long ago, is that we have to get the council to each district they represent and open up a school and have a monthly community meeting with its citizens to figure out what can we do and how can we help. They are the most important tool to rebuild Gallup. It's not the city council. It is their constituents and my constituents that make us do what we need to do to beautify Gallup, to bring economic growth, which in turn brings economic prosperity. So we have to get everybody involved. I want to hold a monthly meeting with the community and have them and invite them over to a gymnasium and talk about this with a task force, and building a task force where we hold ourselves accountable that we are doing our job and not just hiding everything. Again, it goes back to the website. 2016, I don't understand that, and it's 2025. And, and I've said this before, prime example, if we want to bring industry, if we want to bring retail shops, big retail shops, for instance, Sam's Club or Costco or anything else, Kroger's, we have to show them the numbers of what Gallup brings and what they lose. We have to show them the tax, the grocery receipt tax, everything in our power to bring these industries here. Right now we can't, because they're looking at our website and saying, this is 2016, don't even call them back. Hence Gallup. What is going on? I mean, what's happening now? We have no industry.
Okay. The next section is quality of life and community well-being. A strong quality of life is built on safety, opportunity, and a sense of pride in our community. Our community faces growing challenges related to homelessness, substance abuse, and public safety concerns. These issues impact the overall well-being of local businesses, tourism, and residents. How do you define quality of life for Gallup residents, and what does a thriving, healthy community look like under your leadership?
So a thriving community under my leadership is making sure that our businesses have the best incentives in order to keep businesses going, in order to bring customers in. We have to be good and treat everybody equally, whether they live in Gallup or not, because we're a border town, and like I said, Gallup is super, super unique. Our neighbors, who are my people, the Zuni and the Navajos, we have to treat them just like our neighbors because they're part of us. They are what makes Gallup, and it goes back to the tourism. It goes back, why do tourists come to Gallup? To meet the American Indian. Why do they come to Gallup? To buy American Indian art. They don't come here for the other type of arts out there. They come here because this, again, is the capital of the Indian art industry. So we have to make sure that our businesses, whether it's a grocery store, whether it's a tourist shop, or whether it's an American Indian jewelry shop, or any other shop, has the best incentives that we can possibly give for us to make money, for us to get the taxes we need to make sure that we have the infrastructure to build. But again, we have to start at the bottom with unsheltered people and homeless. Not all of them have a drug problem or an alcoholic problem. There's some that literally are mentally incapable of normal things, whether they're autistic or whether they had a brain injury and nobody has cared for them, and they're human beings. Doesn't matter what color they are, they're human beings. So with public safety, we do need a task force to help police forces to understand how to approach people with those kind of mental disabilities, because sometimes, you know, when if you're a police officer, you have no idea whether they're dangerous or not, and I understand that. So how they approach it is the way they approach it in with the physical part, but we have to have mental health workers to really teach them as well, so that when you approach someone, you get to see and you automatically understand something is not right with this person. But you know, we won't know that until we actually have these task force to make sure that public safety is the number one priority we need, because with that also helps the infrastructure of Gallup to bring once again economic growth, you know.
Okay. And you've kind of covered this next question, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it because you might want to just elaborate a little bit. What plan do you have to address the needs of a rapidly growing and increasingly violent homeless population, while also protecting the safety, commerce, and livability of Gallup's neighborhoods and business districts?
And you know, the one most important thing about that, again, and people probably are getting tired of it, but when we actually start doing it, you'll see a difference, and that's task force. Having business owners come to the council, having citizens come to the council, getting mental workers, mental health workers to City Hall to sit down at a round table and hash these things out with ideas. Again, I'm no professional in mental health or in law, but I do understand being human, to try to do our best to fix these things in a humane way, not by throwing them in, not by trying to get rid of people, but to try to fix it. Because homelessness, unsheltered, again, if New York can't fix it, if Boise, if Austin, if any city or town in America can't fix the homeless problem, how are we going to do it? We can't bring in the FBI to say get rid of them. We can't build an NCI and say put him there for 24 hours. It's just going to keep repeating. We need a task force of mental health workers. We need a task force that involves people who have been on the streets, who have sobered up, who have had the ability to learn if they are autistic, to learn the mental part of what they're doing and how successful they've been. We need people like that in a task force to help us so we can help our community. And it's just like, you know, help me help you as a community member so we can create economic growth here.
Okay. The last section is economic strength and growth. We kind of hit on this at the beginning, but I'm going to go ahead and go into it again. Gallup was once among the top 5 cities in New Mexico for gross receipts revenue, but today sits closer to the middle of the pack. What do you believe has driven this change, and what strategies will you champion to strengthen Gallup's business climate, attract new investment, and restore our community's economic momentum?
Well, you know, when that momentum sort of started falling down is partly because of the Gallup Indian ceremonial. I think there was a lot of infighting. I think you had one fraction wanting to run it, and you had the business community who ran it. And unfortunately, something happened where we lost the businesses, but we also lost state funding for that. And Gallup Indian ceremonial, it was one of the biggest American Indian art shows in the United States, where people came to Gallup before they went to Indian Market. We were the second largest attraction in New Mexico, besides the Balloon Fiesta, but that hasn't been here for more than 40 years. Gallup Indian Ceremonial has been here over 100 years, just like Indian Market has. And when you look at the numbers, when you look at the state numbers, the revenues in August came from McKinley County and Sandoval County, where Indian Market happened. And the state made a ton of money because businesses knew they would make money too. And it was like Christmas for them. We have to get that back, but we also have to talk about it as a task force, as a group, to say, we need your support to run this right. We can't have any infighting, because if we do that, we all lose. Every single citizen in Gallup loses, because we lose that tax dollar, we lose everything, just like it is now. I mean, we see it. I remember when I was a kid, right by the gas stations on the east side, right on the overpass, the line would stop there, and it would take 3 hours to get into the ceremonial. But people didn't turn around. They went because it was huge, and there was money that was made. It can happen. We just forgot about it, and nobody talks about it. We need to bring that back. But not only that, we have to have the infrastructure for a Spanish market, even an Italian market. There's a lot of Italians here. I mean, to have these small boards so that we can actually have the gross receipts taxes help bring these art shows to Gallup, and people come when there's something beautiful, you know? So that's how I believe we can really work with tourism, with bringing money in and helping businesses. Not only that, but small businesses as well, who, you know, it's 2025. Everybody, whether you're a jeweler or whether you're making pillowcases or quilts, there's a way for small businesses to make money, to put food on their table. We need to allow that. We need to have some type of center so that there's business all around Gallup year round, so we can have, again, infrastructure that creates economic growth, that brings bigger industry here. It starts from one block to another, building it, you know. And that means a great idea, but it means a task force of people, not just the politicians. It means everybody has to get involved if we really want Gallup to make the hundreds of millions of dollars in tourism dollars like it used to. We have to bring that back. We definitely have to, you know, because that helps the infrastructure, that helps with new sidewalks, that helps with smooth roads, that helps with redoing some of the water lines. Some of these water lines are from 1920 and 1930, and they have not been replaced. And when you think about it, if you were to break a water pipe that was in the ground for 80, 90 years, and there's water still running in there, you'll probably find asbestos and other chemicals that we ingest, and that's not good. But it costs hundreds of millions of dollars to replace those. But we have to start somewhere to start replacing them. We just can't stop and forget about it. We have to start from the very bottom with the infrastructure to build the growth of our economy.
Okay. That wraps up our sections here. Is there anything else you'd like to say to the chamber members and the world at large? Because we are going to be posting this to our social media.
Well, good evening. Good evening, I meant to say. Again, I'm sure you know who I am, Lyndon Tsosie. If not, I am CEO of the Lyndon Foundation. I'm also manager and founder of the House of Stamps, and we deal in Navajo handmade stamps for the jewelry industry worldwide. November 4th is around the corner, and if you like my plan and you want to rebuild Gallup from the bottom up so we have safe roads and water, then vote for Lyndon B. Tsosie, November 4th. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
The Gallup-McKinley County Chamber of Commerce thanks each candidate for their willingness to serve and for sharing their perspective with our community. The Chamber believes that informed Engaged leadership is essential to the continued success of our region. We encourage every resident to participate in the upcoming election and to make their voice heard in shaping Gallup's future.
Yes.
I am Peter Campos with the Gallup-McKinley County Chamber of Commerce. This is mayoral candidate Lyndon Tsosie, and we thank you for watching this.